Welcome to Worlds Unbound. Make sure to visit the story page on Royal Road to support the author, or to follow along. Link in the description. Video created with permission from author. The tutorial is Way Too Hard. By Palt. Chapter 1, Floor 0, It Escapes, Irretrievable Time. By this point, it's really only a matter of days until I either starve to death or get killed in some desperate attempt to avoid the aforementioned. Personally, though, I'm leaning towards just starving to death. Worse ways to croak and all that. More than that, I've got to admit that I'm really a bit surprised that I lasted this long. Sure, I failed my homelessness speedrun any %, but what can you do? Maybe I'll at least place somewhat high in the 17-year-old category, assuming such a thing exists. Then again, if you want to go even more in depth, maybe there's even a category for men, and then the lightweight category. Yes, all things considered, maybe I'll at least snag first place in the Loser X Pro Gamer Estranged Son with Criminal Record category. Then again, there probably aren't too many of those running around on these streets. Are there? Who knows? I just feel cold. When did I last feel my toes? They don't wiggle anymore. If I tried to stand up, maybe they'd even snap off like icicles. There must be someone interested in watching that, right? A kid or two I could swindle some money off? Yeah. Somewhere, maybe. But as is, I can't even really think straight. It's cold. Snowflakes have started settling on my ragged clothes. They're the ones I was arrested in, so they still have a little bit of his blood on them. Damned hack. I hope he got to the hospital too late for them to properly reconfigure his arm. If he's out of the game, that would mean I'm technically still world champion. Assuming some other perky young colt hasn't popped up in these past 6 months to take back the title. The thought makes the snow settling atop my body feel even heavier. I can't feel my arms anymore, but in some half-dying thirst for answers, I shuffle over a little and shove my bare hand in my pocket. I can't really feel anything in there, but I can hear a few coins cling together. It's not much. My stomach makes an all too familiar sound. But it's not like that's new. And in these times, even if I bought myself an entire cake with these coins, I still wouldn't live to see next week. I'm pretty sure of that. So really, what's the point? I'm fine with dying. I've been dying for 6 months now. What does it matter if that darkness comes in a month or an hour? It still comes, like an undodgeable homing missile. Either way, I'm screwed, so why not do something with it? Actually standing up is a different matter. My knees make weird crunching noises, but they don't feel like anything. My hands are stiff and cold, like unwashed carrots. I bet they'd snap off just as easily, too. Standing up actually takes all the effort left in me, and it leaves me panting and heaving, choking out puffs of white smoke. As I finally stand up, I can feel my legs tremble and my back is as hunched as ever. Right. So far so good. At my feet lies a backpack containing what little things I have. A towel. A can opener. A few magnets. Stuff like that. Looking at it, I feel a sudden burst of disgust slither its way through me. And after staring at it for a full 5 seconds, I decide to leave it behind. I won't need it. On my way out of the snow-caked alleyway, I pause at a drainage pipe and stick my hand into the mouth of it, pulling out a small bag of tiny, cloudy but transparent crystals as I do. I'm lucky I was smart enough to never start on the stuff, but it's still a good bribe for the people hooked on it. They never say no. Limping my way out of the alley fully, I spy up and down the street. Lots of people walking by. Smiling. Chattering. Dressed nice and snug. Fashionably, not that I've ever been able to discern that sort of stuff. All I can see is that the fabric is good. For a minute or so, I scan the people walking by, ensuring that I don't recognize anyone. To stay on the safe side, I bundle my scarf closer to my face, covering most of it. The snow lining the creases doesn't melt when it meets my cheeks. The cold of the snow doesn't hurt anymore. Content with my preparations, I sneak out. I know this city better than I ever did before all this. It's big, but it makes sense in its places. That's how I know where the nearest internet cafe is. The sky is dark, only lighted by the snow hovering down. It's the kind of night where all you want is to lie down and snuggle into your blanket and pass out of all of this without having to think too much about anything. But the world has never been that merciful. Passing by the obnoxiously happy pedestrians, I make my way to the point and click, a cafe that may not have the cheapest rates, but does have something much more valuable. I stop just outside the front door, stiff hand hovering over the cold metal handle. My eyes glue themselves to a sign out front. To make up for my lack of glasses, I squint as best as I can to make out the words. Close for New Year's Eve, see you next year. How cheeky. That's today? Makes sense, though I didn't think about it much. Nonetheless, the brothers who own the place both live in the apartment just above, so without much hesitation I press the doorbell by the side of the door, the sound of the chime echoing through the store and all the way up to the apartment above. A light flickers on in the apartment before traveling down into the cafe. I quickly take a step back, just in time to watch the door fly open. Yes? How may I? His eyes fall down to me and any curiosity and well-meaning dies out. Oh, it's one of you. Listen, can't you read the sign? No abierta, not open. How hard is that to understand? And P.S. No, I'm not giving you a free handout, so you might as well pick up your little poor boy satchel and... I present the coins. He gives an exaggerated sigh and rolls his eyes. Buddy, we're closed. It's not that difficult of a concept to. I shuffle around in my inventory. I present the little baggie of crystal meth. His eyes shine up. Well, he licks his lips. I can always make an exception for a friend, can't I? Proper item chosen. +5 intimacy gained with co-owner of Internet Cafe. Friendship with co-owner of Internet Cafe has increased from mutual resentment to codependency through recreational mineral collecting. +20 XP. 3825 EXP needed until next level up. Access to Internet Cafe point and click gained. After he's done his due by glancing around to check if anyone saw our successful interaction, he shows me his open palm and I deposit the little baggie in it. As soon as he has the item in hand, he stuffs it into his pocket and opens up the door. Step right on in. Right as I'm about to do just that, he jams his foot in my way. And just so we're clear, you aren't here for a week-long sleepover or a full-course New Year's Eve dinner. You play your games, I have my fun, and then you're out, get it? I really don't want to have you tracking dirt and lice and rat eggs and whatever it is your sort carries in here, you get me? A curt nod is all he needs, so that's all I give. The warmth inside the cafe hurts. It's stinging something awful and bringing a fair bit more attention to the fact that the insides of my ragged shoes and my ragged clothes and my ragged scarf isn't wet from molten snow alone. Every step hurts more than the last, but I didn't come here to live. Once the co-owner takes his leave to go enjoy himself, I sit down by one of the many open computers. I log on. This is the one I always use, so it already has tendrils of magic and madness downloaded. 5 years ago, it was the most popular MMORPG on the market. Every single lobby and every single server was always filled to the brim. Every item the game had to offer was on the market within only weeks of the game's launch. And still, it kept itself fresh. The in-game economy, miraculously, didn't collapse for several years, and even when it did so gracefully enough that I could keep up even when most people couldn't. But that was no surprise. I was, after all, the greatest TMM player in the world. Not just in the South Korean lobbies, not just in the Asia server, but in the entire world. Entire groups of other players could face me and I wouldn't even blink. It wasn't a matter of levels. That's not how TMM was designed. Skill was everything, and I had all of it. Secret Easter eggs, hidden bonus levels, ultra-rare items. I knew things the wiki hadn't even touched on yet. I was, in every sense, unrivaled. Whenever there was a tournament, I would join basically only as a spectator. The other players would all form parties and do combat in various ways, and then the final winner would face me. I didn't need to prove myself. Everyone knew already. That's how it was, and that's how it should have stayed. If Let's Fraternize Together had only known his place, it wouldn't have come to this. None of it would have happened. Really, it's all his fault for putting his nose where it didn't belong and getting so damn invested in a stupid video game. But enough about him. Games like these cycle through WCs like toilet paper, so I'm sure he's been dethroned long since. And now, the game has finally loaded. The music is the same as ever, but the game load screen is some sort of holiday variant I don't recognize. I don't like it. But whatever, you know? It's not important. The game opens and I type in my username and password, that Gentle Knight 2, make sure not to press save password, and press enter. Another loading screen. If you touch the tentacles of a minus, you will take insanity damage until you recover with an incantation. Okay. Or you can use the exploit where you clip through the minus until it goes into the floor and is never seen again, and the game forgets you're supposed to be taking insanity damage from it. Up to you. The screen cycles a few times. Server Asia. Lobby, South Korea 1. Enter. It takes a while for the potato of a computer to render the lobby, something that took my old computer Zeus a mere millisecond. And there, just as beautiful as the day I lost him, is my beautiful character. Massive black wings that could only be gotten through the paid gacha during a Halloween event. Tentacle effects that shoot out every 3 seconds that I got for reaching the highest job category of Old One Oracle. And then the robes of endless fabric, quasar staff manimus, tendril crown of black silver. Back in the day, just one of these items could bring about a huge bidding war within the entire Asia server. But obviously, what I'm wearing right now is only for show. I do have more powerful equipment, but it doesn't look as cool, so I only wear it for the real battles. The last time that happened, though, was when, well, it isn't important. What's important is that I missed this character. Long ebony black hair, icy blue eyes like limpid tears, the whole package. If I looked like this in real life, I wouldn't have any problems. The girls would be all over me, and the guys would all be jealous, and Fresh Biscuit Sohoi, LOL, what, look at that guy. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi, what's with the huge get-up, did you lose a bet? Your mom fucks 33, is that the quasar staff? Didn't that get outdated like 5 months ago with the new patch? Fresh Biscuit Sohoi, yeah, that's the staff that got nerfed like a little bitch, LOL. I stare at the screen. Nerfed? Jonathan Banks, admin, it's not nice to make fun of returning players, Fresh Biscuit Sohoi and your mom fucks 33. Welcome back, that Gentle Knight 2. We're always happy to have people pick the game back up, happy face 3 less than 3. Blink blink. I can feel my rotting teeth bite into my flaking lower lip. Slowly, I place my fingers to the keyboard. This is actually the best gear in the game that I spent 500 hours collecting, and it's super strong and probs way stronger than you guys' stuff. I lean back in my seat. There. Roasted. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi. Oh, okay, so that's how you want to go, geezer. How well redacted you. Okay, you redacted punk. My gear is actually super strong and am in the top 100 players in Asia. I could whoop your redacted anytime. Huh, yeah, exactly. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi has been issued a warning. Jonathan Banks, admin, easy on the language, Fresh Biscuit Sohoi. This is a game for everyone. There is no need for harsh language. Okay. Alright. You know what? That's it. 6 months ago I would have let him go like a Cerberus, ignoring the barking of a chihuahua, but not now. I've needed to cut loose a little. My fingers have thawed, so I am all ready to go. That Gentle Knight 2 has challenged Fresh Biscuit Sohoi to a duel. I lean back. If he was clever, He'd just surrender right now and avoid going gentle into that dark night. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi has accepted that Gentle Knight 2's challenge. But obviously you can't expect that sort of wisdom from some no-name standard username peanut who can't even recognize the former ruler of this game. Everyone needs to learn a lesson sometimes. As they say, all kids need a good whooping to understand their place in the world. I place my fingers against the keyboard and grab the mouse. The movements are coming to me easily now. This guy doesn't even have any flashy effects or mounts or wings. He's an obvious pushover, but still too stupid to do the simple courtesy of checking my level before accepting the challenge. A grin rises to my lips for the first time in several months. It hurts. But it feels good. A circle arena has formed around my avatar and Fresh Biscuit Sohoi, separating us from the common rabble. A counter from 3 to 2 to 1 counts down in front of the screen and I ready myself. The second it hits that fateful 0, my brain shifts into gear completely and my character bursts to life with the press of only a few buttons, flinging himself across the screen and twisting and bringing down his gorgeous summoned black onyx sword on the opposing avatar who is no longer there? I blink at the screen. That's not right. Where in the world did he go? My brows furrow, which hurts, but I don't have time to care as my character flings himself into another burst of movement, flying around the borders of the dual circle like a swallow, here and there. But he just isn't around anymore. Did he turn invisible? Can they do that now? What the hell is going on? My teeth grit themselves. What a coward. What a complete and utter coward. I pause in my frantic running just enough to type in the chat. You, where the redacted are you coward? And just as I click send, something smashes into the side of my character and hurls him across the map where he crashes into the invisible barrier around the dual circle. I only just have time to gawk at how my health instantly slips down into the red before my fingers move on their own and narrowly toss my character out of the way of another horribly quick strike. It's so fast I can barely see it. Is that a hammer he's wielding? A war hammer? This is a game about magic and sorcery. Why in the world would you even use a blunt weapon when you can just as easily summon weapons too? He used a skill. I don't know which. It looked like his character tossed a small pig plushie at my character, and somehow that was enough to stun me, and then he caved my character's head in with his hammer, and that was it. The screen turns dark and monochrome and a single word overlays the whole screen, printed in horrible oversaturated red, dead. Duel is over. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi is the winner. In my head, I can picture the screen on his end. A big green letterbox shouts win. And a spray of confetti erupts across the screen and all of the surrounding gawkers would use the cheer and the jubilee emotes and spam the chat with astonishment and adoration, and nobody could ever face you no matter how many they were because just one of you would always be enough to face them all, no matter what, no matter when. But that's not what's on my screen. Just a big red dead. That's all. The chat is being spammed alright, but it's all just the same thing. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi, GG easy. Your mom fucks 33. LMAO, what a pushover. Your mom fucks 33. GG easy for real LOL. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi, shoulda stayed offline. Jonathan Banks, admin, come on, have some sportsmanship. Good match, both of you. Very interesting techniques, that Gentle Knight too. If you grind a bit, I'm sure you can have a great rematch. Happy face. Your mom fucks 33, yeah, if he grinds a bit on my nutsma. Your mom fucks 33 has been banned for foul language. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi, admin versus user admin win GGEZ. Fresh Biscuit Sohoi has been temporarily muted. I stare at the chat. After a few minutes, it goes silent. Since Fresh Biscuit Sohoi got muted, I can't even challenge him to a rematch. If I look out the window, it's completely dark now. It feels almost like the world is holding its breath. The time is 23:57. What kind of loser would spend this time on New Year's Eve in an online game, fighting randos? I grind my molars. Once I respawn, I quickly check the rankings. I must just have been unfortunate and ran into some sort of underground legend, or some secret master. Maybe he was even an NPC hidden boss or something. No, that last one's a bit too unlikely. But he could be a secretly super high-level player. I mean, how else would he just do that to me? I'm the number one player. If anyone's doing the curb stomping, it's me. That's how it works, and that's how it is, and he isn't even in the top 100. Not for the world. Not for Asia. Not even for South Korea. He isn't even in the top 100 for the server. Neither am I. My ranking is very clear. It's right there, written in bold purple text. Your ranking, number 12,494. 12,494th. And what of my rival, nemesis and enemy? Maybe I was a fool to have hope, to think he'd follow my footsteps and sink into the despair I feel, but he's number 84's internationally. It's not much. He used to be number 1. But now he's 84th. At least, unlike a certain someone, he's actually on there. Let's fraternize together's ranking, number 84 worldwide, number 20 Asia, number 2 South Korea. He's doing well. I feel the buzz in my ears intensify, my vision blurring and blotting, my breathing becoming even raspier, my joints aching and creaking, my flesh scraping together, and the fever more pronounced than ever. It hurts. Everything hurts. My face feels hot with everything that can make a face hot, but it won't seep out through tears. Had I always been this pathetic? Is this something new, or was I always destined to be this sort of worthless, pathetic loser? My head is on fire. I want to die. Maybe I'm already dead. Maybe I died 6 months ago. Maybe this is hell. That'd be better. At least hell is perpetual. I'd rather be burnt than tormented like this. Outside, far away, I can hear a bell begin to ring the ceremonial 33 times as 1,000 people chant in unison. 10. 9. 8. I wonder if my parents and sister are out there among them. Do they miss me? If it were me, I'd be happy I was gone. 7. 6. 5. I mean, really. There's nothing to miss in the least. No skill, no trait, no dream of any value whatsoever. I wouldn't be surprised if they hate me. 4. 3. Nothing to miss is almost an overstatement. What is there to miss in a void of a person like me? Certainly not my charming personality, or my looks, or my smarts, because God knows I do not have any of those. I am, by all means, nothing. 2. Nothing at all. 1. And nothingness isn't something you miss. 0. And as the world outside the internet cafe windows lights up with cheers for a better year and fireworks and music, the inside of the cafe suddenly lights up as well. But not by any fireworks, no, rather, by a floating, shining text box straight out of a video game. Congratulations on being invited to the tutorial. Surly Ho-Jae. What? Oh, I see, so this is the light at the end of the tunnel you see when you die. Makes sense. No, hang on a sec, what the heck do you mean by tutorial? Are you telling me my entire life was just the lobby period you spend before you even start the tutorial proper? Is this the menu screen? Okay, let's just relax for a moment. This isn't real. Actually, it's not too bad. I'm dying, so I'm obviously hallucinating. Great, I really felt like dying right now. Wonderful. Glad someone up there's listening for once. Which button do I press to die? Would you like to enter the tutorial? Yes/no. Well, if it means dying, then sure. Why the heck not? Take me there, ferryman. A second passes? Oh, do I have to press it manually? Talk about outdated models for spiritual death, sheesh. Unbefitting of a dead man, I casually pressed the yes button, and in that very second, a third screen pops up. Select the tutorial difficulty level. Easy. Normal. Hard. Hell. Well, now you're just asking the obvious. Clearly, a pro gamer has to prove himself even in the afterlife. What do you expect me to do if I go to hell and Let's Fraternize Together chose the hell difficulty, and is doing much better than me? I'd try to off myself and go to whatever afterlife lies beyond the afterlife. Superhell would be my one and only fate. Can have that, can I? The answer is so simple I almost feel like chuckling. Instead, I just casually press the hell button. Afterlife, here I go. End of chapter. Chapter 2, Floor 1, in the lobby. Me? Where am I? Everything is so bright, and my head hurts. No, it doesn't. My hand only barely has time to touch my temple before I realize that my head doesn't hurt. It's been months since my head has last felt this clear. The eternal chill in my limbs is gone. The rattle in my lungs is gone. My knees don't feel crunchy. What in the world? And then I realize that my eyes are also okay. My eyes. To reiterate, my vision has been piss poor ever since I was 6. I couldn't wear lenses because my glasses had to be so thick. And now you're telling me my vision is just. Listen, I can actually see the things around me with near perfect quality. And sure, it isn't much to look at, but there are things here. I can see those white pillars in perfect clarity. The floor isn't blurry in the least. And, no, wait, hang on, is that it? Is that seriously it? No, that can't be. There has to be something else around here apart from this infinite white void and the infinite white floor and the infinite white marble columns that seem to reach up thousands of feet into the distant, white sky. If this is hell, then it sure doesn't look like it. I'd say it looks more like heaven, but this never-ending silence is kind of ruining that image. It feels eerie somehow. Maybe it's limbo instead? Rightfully confused and disoriented, I look around for a bit. My body really is completely healed. My mind feels clear. Clearer than it has in ages, maybe forever. It's seriously tripping me out, but just as I'm about to accept that there's nothing more than these pillars, I can hear something like a door open behind me, and when I whirl around to face it, what I'd find is an open door and exactly no walls. It's just a door. It doesn't even lead anywhere. It's a door, and on the other side are 6 tables. But it's kind of like a gate without a fence, because I can just walk around it just fine. And there we have them. 6 tables. But it's not the tables I'm looking at. No, what's on the tables is much more interesting, and it makes me want to chuckle evilly. Starter weapons. An axe, a bow, a staff, a hammer, a spear, and a sword and shield. Oh, it's beautiful. I've changed my mind. Hell isn't so bad. This is starting to look like my life before this was the tutorial, and now I'm in the real game. Or something. Heh. Okay, alright, let's wind down a little. This is probably the most important decision of my life, above choosing starter Pokemons and above choosing scholarships. First up, I think I'll just discount the axe and hammer. I'm scrawny, okay? I'm short and small, and that's just what I am, so there's no point trying to use a weapon I'm not suited for. Sure, once I get stronger I'll be able to fling them around as I please and fulfill the small character with big weapon trope, but for now, I'll need to actually be able to kill things properly. From the rest, I'm not doing a spear. Sure, I read somewhere that spears are good for untrained combat, but I'm not going to be untrained forever, and besides, it's pretty inflexible in terms of range. I'm also removing the bow for that same reason. I'd obviously love to have some distance between myself and my possible enemies, but I need to also be able to fight in close range if the need arises. That leaves me with the staff and the sword and shield. I need to take a closer look at this. I creep up to the staff and put my head level to it. A termite-eaten staff. Magic 4. Probably more effective at bludgeoning people than magic. Used item. Alright. So, in other words, it's a magic staff. Despite what the description says, if I hit someone with a termite-eaten piece of wood, it's not gonna bludgeon them, it's just going to burst into splinters and soft dust. Maybe if I'm lucky they'll get a splinter stuck in a weak spot and somehow die from it? Yeah, no. How about the sword and shield then? It's 2 weapons for the price of one, after all. Besides, that sword looks really cool. An ornamental sword. Attack 4. A foolish knight brought the ceremonial sword to battle and died. It has a blunt edge. Used item. Oh, well, that's a termite-eaten shield. Defense 4. Makes for a good smoke screen. Beware the splinters. Used item. Are there termites in this entire starter weapon selection area? Aren't we supposed to be in some sort of afterlife? Are you trying to tell me that ghost termites ate these weapons? But at least the sword, although blunt, doesn't seem to be on the edge of completely disintegration at any second, so I guess that's really my best choice. Unsure if it can be called anything close to best, but... Will you choose this weapon? Yes/no. I really don't have any choice, do I? Fine. Blunt sword and splinter bomb deluxe it is. I press the yes button. And then the world below my feet disappears and I stumble and fall, but someone catches my fall and for a second or so I just hang in their arms, staring down at the pristine white floor. Whoa there! That very someone says, just inches above my head. Was about to take quite the tumble there, weren't you? English? With maybe a bit more force than intended, I push myself away from whoever caught me. He lets me go and even gives me a relaxed pat on the arm as he does. And then we stand face to face. He doesn't look like a Westerner. No, by all means, he looks completely normal. For a few uncomfortable seconds, we just stare at each other. Why are you talking in English? I ask in a low, almost growling voice. He blinks at me. You're Korean too? Oh, now he speaks the right language. Smiling, he scratches the back of his head. Meek. What a meek guy. That's the word. Much like almost every other non-child in the world, he's over a full head taller than me, and about as ordinary as you get. Average height, standard black hair and eyes, wearing a pair of ordinary dress pants and a stained shirt. Going by the smell, it seems he had a bit of a wild night before coming here. He's also wearing a New Year's Eve party hat hanging from his neck, so it's pretty clear where he came from. But it's not the hat I care about. Rather, it's his hair. PFFFF. It's a crew cut. It's stupidly short, and it looks horrible on him. Everything else is so ordinary, except for that hairstyle. Did he lose a bet or something? He furrows his brows at me. Is there something wrong? I boldly point my finger at his head. Your haircut looks stupid. My hair. He gently touches his hand to his head, his eyes widening as he does. But then he looks at me. It would seem, in our appearing here, we both happened into the same predicament. Huh! What do you? My heart stops. My hand flies up to touch my head. My hair isn't long anymore. Or greasy. Or knotted. It's short, and washed, and would probably best be described as a crew cut. I see. So this is where the help part comes in. Yes. I see. Gently, I lie down on the floor and bundle myself up in the so-called fetal position. My head feels breezy. So this is the thing that breaks me, then. After so many years of growing out the ultimate luscious hair. Gone. Taken from me at such a young age. This truly is hell. By the way, now that I'm lying straight on the floor, I can say that it isn't cold, nor is it warm. It's some atrocious, unfeelable middle ground. The whole room is at room temperature exactly, and not a degree above or below. It feels really weird. I don't like it. The seemingly endless white is starting to hurt my eyes too, but as soon as it begins to really sting it suddenly goes away. What? A shadow falls on me and I glance up at my fellow sufferer. Hey man, just relax, alright? It's not the end of the world. Oh, but it is. He's a fool not to think so. If he wants to lie on the floor, let him! Someone shouts in English from across the room. I raise my head just enough off the floor to see the face of this cruel man. He's as young as me, and by the looks of it, Japanese. Despite that, his English is really good, and the accent is hardly noticeable. His hair is dyed blonde and cut in a crew cut, just as much a victim as me and this old guy. That makes two, and all that. Oh, and he's also holding a huge axe. Well, he's trying to, because for all his arrogance, the axe is still too heavy to properly lift. I smirk at him. His face twists in anger. What, you wanna go, punk? Huh! Hey, come on, relax a bit. He's just upset at. Well, whatever it is, it's his emotions, so be a bit nice, okay? PSH. Be nice. Yeah, sure. He spits on the floor, but the spit doesn't actually hit anything, it just vanishes before it touches down. Weird. The guy lifts his axe and tries to wave it around. I don't know if you can read, geezer, but unless we start practicing soon, we won't be ready for when the floor opens. Do I need to remind you that you can't even lift your pussy-ass spear properly? The average-aged man above me frowns a bit. Still, he's right. Lying here won't do me any good at the moment, and what I really need right now is to prepare myself for the floor opening? End of chapter. Chapter 3, F1, Screens and Buttons. I shoot up to my feet. And the second I do, another one of those screens pop up just before my eyes. Time until floor 1 opening. 23 hours 49 minutes and 3 seconds. A timer? It seems to be counting down. So, if I get it right, in 23 hours and 50 minutes or so, the first floor will open. The first floor of what? I guess it must be the tutorial, but that doesn't say anything else either. How many floors are there? What happens after the tutorial? Does it even have an end? Where is this place? Why was I called here? And who are these other 3 people? 3, because I just now noticed someone on the floor. I think it's a girl considering her slender frame, but her hair is cut so short it makes her look like a man. But she's wearing a pretty nice, if somewhat torn, dress, so I'm pretty sure she's a woman. I'm also pretty sure that she's sobbing, because her exposed shoulders are trembling. On the other hand, I have no idea where she's from. She doesn't look like a Westerner, or like she's from Japan or South Korea or even China. The Japanese delinquent guy meets my eyes. On your feet now, eh? Guess you're at least a half man. How about you make yourself useful and show what kind of weapon you picked? He's asking me to show my cards? Why? So that he can. He's close in front of me now, with the axe raised, the edge of it pressing against my neck. If I wanted to kill you, he growls, I wouldn't be asking you to take out your weapon now, would I? I blink at him. Something cold slithers up through my veins and I begin nodding. Great, glad you understand basic logic. Besides, he shoves the axe closer to me, into my neck, drawing blood, making its cold blade enter my skin, but instead of making my neck splurt with blood, it does nothing. I stare at him, wide-eyed. He draws back the axe, and the meager pain I felt dissipates. Even if I wanted to kill you, I can't. This place won't even let you get hurt, much less actually die. It takes a minute or so for my mouth to start working again. WH-Y? Why? He asks right back, making a mocking face. Do I look like I've got a clue? I don't even know how I got here. Now the only actual adult in the room butts. As I've told you before. He says in that measured, even voice you only use with children. You got invited to the tutorial, you accepted, and you chose the hell difficulty. He sighs melodramatically. And then you chose the axe for some reason I can't comprehend. I chose it because it looks awesome. The delinquent squeals as he hugs the massive axe closer to him. You never said why you chose that dopey spear, right? I bet it's 'cause you're a coward or something. Spear this, spear that, I haven't seen any dash. Suddenly there's a spear in the older guy's hand. Was that always there? This spear is the easiest weapon to use for a beginner. It's versatile, suitable for fighting wild beasts and humans alike, and dash. Yeah. Shut up already, will you? You're a nerd, we get it. The delinquent turns to me. So? What weapon did you choose? Out with it already. I have a feeling that if I talk now I'll stammer, so I keep my mouth shut. Just pull it out of your inventory, man. And the second he said inventory, a screen popped up in front of his eyes. Damn it, not again. Shouldn't this place be able to patch stuff like that? Such a bother. With a wave of the hand, the screen disappeared again. After a second or so, tentatively I say, Inventory. The window quickly appears, so since it works in both English and Korean, that would mean anyone can use it, as long as they know it exists. Neat, I guess. Community, top status. Inventory. The screen shows a graph of small item icons, including a shield and a sword. They're shown as separate items, and apart from them, I also have 5 pieces of beef jerky and 5 bottles of water. Wonderful. Just what I needed. I kind of forgot I was literally starving to death, but now that I see some food, I can feel my stomach's grumbling coming back in full force. How do I get it out of there, though? The older guy didn't say anything to call out his spear, so do I just? Imagine that. A pack of beef jerky appears in my hand. I stare at it. PFFF, that's your weapon, eh? Bet you'll kill loads of enemies with that, the delinquent says with a guffaw. But I don't really care. Without a moment's hesitation, I tear open the little plastic baggie and rip out the jerky from within before stuffing it into my face. It's bland and dry and tough, but it's food. I chew and I suddenly realize that my teeth are no longer crooked and rotting, and it doesn't hurt to eat anymore. I almost want to cry, but I'm somehow able to keep it inside. Once I've swallowed all of it, I take out a bottle of water too and drink it all in one gulp. God, that was good. But the window isn't closed yet, so I quickly pull out the sword and shield. The delinquent stares at my weapons. So, another close-range dealer, huh? I tilt my head at him and frown. He rolls his eyes and jerks a thumb at the fetal position girl. She also chose the sword and shield. That means we've got 4 guys who are all close-range damage dealers and nobody at a distance. If we face bird enemies or something, we're screwed. My frown dips a bit further down. What does it matter if we're all DPS? Whatever happens, I'm playing this solo. Who in their right mind would pollute the game of life by playing it co-op? The delinquent huffs at me. What? You think this is some solo adventure? I shrug at him. Why wouldn't it be? Listen, if it was solo, we wouldn't all be in the same lobby, would we? I don't see how that's important. Even if you're in a lobby with 1 million people, you still don't have to play with all of them. Okay, listen, he says. Check the community tab. Right at the top of the screen. Just press it. I glance back at the window in front of me. No reason not to, I suppose. Community, top status. I poke the community button. Status, community, top. Asia server. Easy lobby, 843/843. Normal lobby, 258/258. Hard lobby, 40/40. Hell lobby, 4/4. There's seriously only the 4 of us? In the entire Asia server there's only 4 hell challengers? Really now? Still, I guess this explains a bit of what's going on. From the looks of it, over 1,100 people have been called here, assuming the numbers indicate humans. It almost looks as though I should be able to press the lobbies to enter some sort of chat, but any time I try I get blocked. The lobby chat rooms and server boards will be unlocked once the first floor of the tutorial is cleared. Right, okay. Gotcha. I guess that makes sense, but it's still kind of a bummer. Still, my point stands. There's no particular reason to form a party. The only other Korean here sidles up beside me. Press the status tab. His helpfulness is making me suspicious, but I can't really refuse him. Without much ado, I press the button. And what appears is enough to freeze me in my tracks. Top, status, community. Prissy Kitty Princess. Human level 0. Strength 4. Agility 9. Stamina 9. Magic power 13. In a different state of mind, I might have focused on the fact that my stats look kind of like hot garbage. Maybe I would have lamented over how I should have picked that termite-eaten staff instead. Or maybe I'd feel emasculated by the fact that my strength is pathetically low. Or maybe I'd wonder what it meant that I'm not even level 1. But I don't. Because right now, all I can see is my username. Prissy Kitty Princess. That dash, that can't be right. Shouldn't it be my name or something? Lee Ho-Jae? Or maybe just my former username? That Gentle Knight 2? Maybe it could remove the 2 since there aren't too many with that username here, but I feel a tremble take hold of my body. A hand falls on my shoulder. Your magic power's good, but the rest is… You know, you can probably increase it once the tutorial starts, so I'm sure it'll be… And then he noticed it. There was no way he couldn't notice it. It was blaring and bright and obvious and right there. Like a malignant tumor growing right on your face. That's He gulps audibly. You could have gotten a worse one, right? What's yours? My mouth says faster than my mind thinks it. What username did you get? He freezes in place. A bead of sweat runs down his forehead. It's randomly generated, so it's really not all that important to… I stare him down. He buckles. His head falls to face the floor. My username is Spearmaestro. I feel a violent need to strangle him, but the last time I strangled someone I got arrested, so I resign myself to simply bringing forth the mental image of his face turning blue, and then purple, and then white. It's a good image. But, if you look at the bottom, you can see a clock for the attempt. I glare at him for a few more seconds just to watch him squirm before looking back at the screen. To be sure, right there at the bottom, there's a little clock calendar thing. Top, status, community. 27 minutes and 1 second. Day 1. The first attempt will begin in 23 hours 32 minutes and 59 seconds. Floor 1 will open in 23 hours 32 minutes and 59 seconds. I watch the seconds ticking by for a few seconds. I've got a lot of questions, but I have a feeling that the majority of them will be answered in 23 hours, 32 minutes and 20 seconds. 19, 18. You get the point. For now, I should get ready for the first floor. I have no idea what it will have, but if it's anything like the MMORPGs it's trying to emulate, then it'll probably have some goblins or wolves or rats or whatever that I'll need to kill. That's my best bet. I shouldn't discount the possibility that it's a gathering quest or something non-combative, but the chance that I'll be fighting something is too high to ignore. In other words, before I do anything else, I should spend these 24 hours training to use my starter weapon. If you want, I can just call you by your real name instead. Mine is Choi Min-shik. And you are? My name is… But what if he saw the news of my assault? What if he knows what I did? What if he's related to Let's Fraternize Together? What if he was his fan? What if… Lee. It's Lee. Just Lee. Lee, is it? He smiles. Well, alright, Lee. Phew. Crisis averted. That guy over there is Taka. Taka. Something with Taka. Hey, you talking about me, geezer? The delinquent snarks at us. The name's Takashi Kakubo. And before you ask, yeah, my parents are huge nerds. Don't even think of making a joke about it or I'll cave your skull in, you get me? Right. Takashi then. End of chapter. Chapter 4. F1 Into the Darkness. I point a finger at the girl. And her? He blinks at me before shrugging apathetically. Is it even important? She's not going to be any useful. If anything, she'll just be in our way. I'm not sure whether I agree or disagree with him. Even if I have no choice but to fight with these as my teammates, calling her useless is a bit. I mean, she'll be far from crucial, but if nothing else she can at least be a meat shield. Ignoring his words, I disengage from the two and wander over to her. As I noticed earlier, she is indeed crying. Impressive stamina to be able to cry for almost half an hour. I squat down next to her. Hey. No response. Hey. Nope, not that either. When all else fails, use violence. I poke her in the side, making her jerk up. Ooh, not too shabby of a face. I've seen better, but she's pretty enough not to be called ugly, I suppose. She's not saying anything, so I poke her again. That was apparently enough to get her to talk, because now she's proving her impromptu beatboxing skills by chattering at incredible speeds. No idea what she's saying, though. I feel like I might recognize a few words here and there, but it's going by too fast to make anything out at all. Either way, she seems pretty threatening, so I quickly pull up my hands in a show of surrender. Look, I'm not here to harm you, alright? Right, exactly. Her words gradually slow down. Right, yeah? She clearly doesn't speak English, so I just bring out my sword. She jerks back. Understandable reaction, I guess, so I just hold it out to her hilt first. She glances up at me. I nod. She touches the hilt. Then she takes it in her hand. The sword must be made of aluminium or something because it's pretty light, but it's still too much for her, and her arm soon starts trembling, so I take it back. Regardless, this proves that interlobby trading is both possible and simple. Regardless, I think sticking a sword in her hand won't do her any good. Looking over my shoulder, I glance back at Takashi. Hey! How'd you make her show you her weapons? Huh! I just made her repeat inventory and then. A screen pops up in front of his eyes and he waves it off with a huff. I guided her through the tabs. She's not stupid, she should know how to do it by now. I nod at him and turn back to the girl. I point at myself. Lee. She furrows her prominent brows for a second before her face lights up in understanding and she points at herself. Ashna. Okay. I point at her. Ashna. And at myself. Lee. She follows suit, first pointing at me. Lee. And then herself. Ashna. And then she smiles. Almost unwillingly, I smile back at her. It took a while of trying, but after a few minutes of back and forth, I was able to get her to open her inventory and bring out her sword and shield, which also brought forth her standing up. Safe to say, she was no longer crying. But just holding the sword in an upright position made her arms tremble, so I was able to convince her through sheer gesturing that the sword just wasn't usable for her. She didn't like it, but she eventually accepted it. Oh, and I also got a glimpse of her status. Strength, 2 agility, 12 stamina, 4 magic power, 21. I'm both envious and not. If she'd only picked the staff, then she could have made for a great mage or healer or whatever it is that the staff makes you. As an aside, her username was Trepidation Under Commitment. I only barely restrained the urge to whack her over the head with her own weapon. But for now, I need to get her able to use the shield properly. And to do this, we started sparring. She wasn't happy to do it, and I was initially worried the shield would explode into dust. But after a graze turned into a slice, we learned that the weapons damaged would automatically regenerate inside the lobby. And while I raised Ashina, Takashi and Choi Min-shik trained together as well. And after some time, we decided to switch partners. I guess I wasn't thinking too much about it all when it happened. I suppose it was a good way to train without having to just blindly swing a sword up and down. But honestly speaking, it was kind of nice. Sometimes you read posts and things by ultra-macho blowers talking about how the only way to get close to another man is to fight him physically. I always thought of those kinds of guys as chumps trying to disguise themselves as warriors, but I think I've changed my mind somewhat. You only learn so much by talking to someone. It's actions that count, and this is no different. When the final hours until the opening of the first floor drew near, I felt closer to these three than I had with probably anyone in my life. Sure, your family is one thing, but friends. I don't think I've had one of those since elementary school. And even then, they only liked me because I was good at games. It's not like I'd call these three randos something as absolute as friends, but it's kind of close. Top status, community. 23 hours 48 minutes and 20 seconds. Day 1. The first attempt will begin in 11 minutes and 40 seconds. Floor 1 will open in 11 minutes and 40 seconds. It's almost time, isn't it? Takashi says for all of us. I nod at him. Yeah. The sword in my hand feels heavy despite being so much lighter than a real one. The shield, despite being eaten by termites, doesn't feel light in the least. It's like holding a small table. But right now, I think anything I'd hold would feel way heavier than it should. I look over our little band. Is everyone ready? Choi Min-shik smiles at me. The sleeves of his shirt are rolled up and the front of it is drenched with sweat. Even though we've been here for an entire day and night, none of us felt any real need to sleep. We took a break at the 12-hour mark to eat some jerky and drink, but after that we just went right back to it. Our bodies regenerated as we fought, and after a couple of hours all of us gained a relevant skill for the combat we were doing. I got Novice Swordsmanship Level 1 and Novice Shieldwork Level 1, both of which then appeared in the Status tab. If I pressed them, I could see the details of them. Basic Swordsmanship, LV.1. Allows the user to use the sword in a rudimentary fashion. Basic Shieldwork, LV.1. Allows the user to use the shield in a rudimentary fashion. Doesn't exactly paint it as an amazing skill, but just having it feels reassuring. There was a clear difference when I got them, and that could also be felt in the others. It wasn't anything groundbreaking, but they seemed to instantly gain a basic sense of how to use their weapon. None of us were able to reach level 2 in any of our skills, but we weren't disheartened. We all feel ready. Top status, community. 23 hours 59 minutes and 3 seconds. Day 1. The first attempt will begin in 57 seconds. Floor 1 will open in 57 seconds. I glance at Ashina. She clutches her shield just a little closer to her, making sure to hold the round shield in such a way where it primarily defends her chest and abdomen. All the soft parts. All right, I say. Let's go. I step in front of the three, them standing at my back, ready. The air around us buzzes with anticipation. Top status, community. 23 hours 59 minutes and 50 seconds. Day 1. The first attempt will begin in 10 seconds. Floor 1 will open in 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Top status, community. Midnight. Day 2. The first attempt will begin in midnight. Floor 1 will open in midnight. I feel myself holding my breath. Floor 1 has opened. Do you want to enter? Yes/no. The same message appeared for us all. We all share a look and grin. If no answer is chosen, no will be chosen for you, and the floor may be accessed. Next attempt. Well, you read the message? I mumble. Turning back, I address the group as a whole. Let's all press it at once, on 3, 2, 1. I poke the yes. And then the world shifts below my feet. End of chapter. Chapter 5. F1. A forest dark. Darkness. Howling winds. A strange whistle reaches my ears, like a loosened arrow, and all of a sudden everything is very, very cold, like a late autumn evening. I stumble forward, and find that the black ground beneath my feet is stiff with cold dirt and rocks. Goosebumps spread across my body in an instant. Roots like veins crawl across the ground. Something feels wrong. Something feels very wrong. Everyone, are you still? Whirling around, I find that I am not alone. There stand my comrades, but they look different. I hear that whistle again. But it's so many. Splitting the horrible wind that threatens to topple me off my feet. Closer, closer, faster, faster. And then they strike. Arrows. I don't know where they came from, I don't know who loosened them, but they struck like vipers. Some pierced through Ashna's soft back like a knife through tofu. Others thump 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 into the shield in her hands, first getting stuck and then eventually breaking it fully, making it splinter and turn to dark dust. After that, there was nothing to save her anymore as the swarm of arrows pierced her lungs and deflated them before she could even attempt to scream. And then she falls into my arms. She doesn't bleed as much as I thought people did. The holes are plugged by the arrows. Ah! Choi Min-shik sighs as he falls over, his back prickly like a porcupine with arrows. A spear apparently isn't too good at stopping arrows. And neither is an axe. Takashi just falls. Ashna shudders and twitches in my arms. I can hear arrows whizzing past my head, but I'm not thinking about them. Thump, thump, thump. With every arrow that hits her body, her limbs twist and jerk. But she isn't saying anything. Her eyes are dull in the infinite darkness. I know she's dead. But she's still warm. I can't think. I wrap my arms around her and feel how the arrows stab into my arms and pin them to her dead, porcupine back. And slowly, shuffling my feet against the ground, I drag her off to the side. After only a few seconds my foot catches in the loop of one of the many roots snaking across the ground and I stumble into the shade of a dark, leafless tree, collapsing to the ground in such a way that I feel a few additional arrows stab into my legs. But once I'm in the shade, the arrows stop. I breathe. Fast, just like my heartbeat. She's still in my arms. I can't let go of her anymore, because the arrows bolted my arms to her back. I can't feel the pain. I can't feel anything but the warmth of her body slowly draining away. I hold her tighter. You have learned. Piercing tolerance level 1. All right. I see. So you get stronger. By getting hurt. I see. Something rises to my cheeks. Something hot and choking and burning, and it goes out of my eyes as cold streaks that run down my neck and into the mouth of my torn hoodie to make it soft and damp and warm. If I look to the right, I can see glints from the arrowheads whizzing by, reflecting what I think might be a moon. But when I look up, what I see isn't a moon, but rather an eclipse. A perpetual, unmoving eclipse of the sun. With the white-silver outline around that dark spot that is the moon, it almost looks like a massive eye, peeking down between the twisted branches of the leafless trees. Tutorial stage. Held difficulty first floor. A forest dark. Clear condition. Reach the hill gazed upon. By the black eye. Slowly I let my head fall from that staring eclipse down to what lies below it. Just as the window said, it's a hilltop. It's tall and mainly composed of jagged, tooth-like rocks. All I need to do is reach there. I look back to my right. The wind whines, and with it comes the whistle of endless arrows. By the tawny light of the eclipse, I can see the outlines of Takashi and Choi Min-shik, both covered with so many arrows they resemble urchins more than humans. The thought almost brings a chuckle to my lips. Still holding her in my arms, I lean over to the left and release the contents of my bowels. An arrow whizzes mere millimeters past my head, and by sheer instinct I jerk it back again. You have learned. Field Instincts LV.1. My lungs hurt. After a full 24 hours in a place where I can't physically feel pain, this shuddering is nauseating. I don't even know how many arrows I've been hit by. How many arrows can you take before you die? Leaning forward, I start counting. 5 arrows on my arms. 2 in my legs. 1 in my left shoulder. That isn't too bad. Asha took 19 arrows, so unless I get hit 11 more times, I'll be fine. I should be fine. You have learned. Poison Tolerance LV.1. Aha, aha, aha. I see how it is. Take me back! I cry to the whistling winds. Take me back to the lobby, please! But the attempt just leaves my lungs feeling rattled. I feel like laughing, but I can't muster the effort. Maybe I need to say the right word? Return. Back to lobby. Leave floor. End attempt. Nothing. I'd say that silence meets me, but the arrows whizzing by all around me are way too loud. There is no return. I'm stuck here until I clear the floor, or, even more likely, die. I hold her closer. There's no respawning. I can feel it. I can tell. She's just gone, and them, too. Status, Community, Top. Asia Server. Easy Lobby, 310 of 843. Normal Lobby, 52 of 258. Hard Lobby, 3 of 40. Hell Lobby, 0 of 1. Yeah, I'm not surprised. It really is just me, then? Everyone else is also doing their best. But I don't think any of them have died yet. And still I shake my head. The movement makes her shuffle around atop me. I'm starting to lose my sense of touch in my hands and feet. I feel sick to my stomach for many reasons. And now that I think of it, my vision is sort of blurry too. I can't tell if this is the poison or just the blood loss. So, in the end, this really is the way it happens. I don't want to die. I thought I did, but I don't want to become stiff like she is. You have learned. Bleeding Tolerance LV.1. You have learned. Unconsciousness Tolerance LV.1. For some reason, I feel neither more alert nor more bloodful. Just the opposite. But I'm not dead yet. And really, what kind of loser dies on the first floor? Of the tutorial, too? Not me. No, I can't be that. I won't allow it. I need to live on. So I can stick it to Let's Fraternize Together, and to Dad who didn't want to bail me out, and to everyone else who kept me down. I'll show them all the tenacity of a pro gamer. So let's just breathe in and out. Let's relax. The poison spreads faster the faster my heart beats, and I bleed out quicker too. There's no time limit on this quest. It's just me, and that's it. I can take as much time as I need. I don't know if my wounds will automatically heal, but if there's a skill for that, then I'm sure I can learn it eventually. I just need to relax. I let my eyes close. Darkness surrounds me. Darker than the forest. In here there is just me. Me and the pain. I can feel the arrows. The adrenaline fades bit by bit, and the pain lurches unto me, but I don't let myself get lost in the pain. There is pain, yes, but in the pain I also feel warmth. My heart beats fast. But with every second that passes, it slows down, bit by bit. The sludge within my system that would bring total oblivion loses its tempo. You have learned. Poison Tolerance LV.2. Darkness. 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 But deep in the darkness, light. You have learned. Meditation LV.1. You have learned. Lesser auto-regeneration LV.1. Internally I smirk. A canto appears to you. A what? Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita. Mi ritrovai per una selva oscura. Che la derita via era smarrita. End of chapter. Chapter 6. F1 Pull and push. Okay? When I peek open my eyes, the window is gone, but if I close them, it returns again. I have no idea what that is or what it means. It's some sort of European language, I think, maybe Latin? Spanish? Italian? Who knows? What I do know is that I have no idea what it's supposed to translate to. I mean, even if it is Latin or something, that doesn't help me. Now that I look at it, considering that mezzo is middle in Italian, I guess this must be that fateful language. And I only know that one because my parents had some unfortunate obsession with trying to turn me into a child musical prodigy. Shame on them that I got stiff fingers and suck at the piano, I guess. But even if I knew every Italian music word, that still wouldn't help me here. It's Italian. It's a so-called canto. That means nothing. Putting that aside, I got the healing skill, so now it's just a matter of time before I'm back on my feet and able to take arrows like they're spitballs. Or, it might take a bit longer than that. Let's just take a quick look at the clock. Top, status, community. 46 minutes and 47 seconds. Day 2. The second attempt will begin in 29:23:14:13. 45 minutes was all it took for all three to die, huh? That said, it seems the next attempt will begin in about a month. Whatever an attempt is. I wave aside the window. For now, let's just focus on not dying. Meditating seems to work, so I'll just keep doing that until I feel better. However long that'll take. Slowly, over the course of several hours, I accrued both pain and tolerance skills and levels. After about 2 hours, I realized with a certain amount of unhappiness that there is no pain tolerance skill. And even the other tolerances, from piercing to bleeding to poison to unconsciousness, are very weak. I can hardly even notice the effect at all. But once poison tolerance reached level 4, it seemed to finally outweigh the poison enough to ward it off fully. But the arrows are still in my body, and it didn't take long for me to realize that even though auto-regeneration was at level 3, it couldn't heal away the arrows. There was only one way to remove them. I'm not sure where I heard it, but the least damaging way to remove an arrow is to push it through completely, not to pull it out. This went pretty well for the ones on my arms and legs since they had already gone the whole way through, so pushing it the rest of the way didn't mean much. But my left shoulder was different. It had only gone halfway in before getting stuck against my shoulder blade. I know this because if I move my left arm, I can both hear and feel the arrowhead scrape against the inside of my bones. I couldn't just push it through nilly-willy. Either I shifted it enough to get it out below or above the shoulder blade, or I pulled it out. After gritting my teeth for a long time, I decided to simply pull it out. My vision was still dancing with white and black dots from the blood loss, but I still had to do it. My bleeding tolerance had reached level 5, but it would have to be enough. Grabbing hold of the arrow's body, I prepare myself. Breathe in, breathe out. Just like when I meditated. One clean pull. That's all I need. One clean pull. I tense my arms. Just one clean pull. I pull with all of my strength and feel the arrow twist inside me and the last poison inside the arrowhead spread into my blood and my flesh getting carved as the arrow moves and my jaw snaps shut, and I grit my teeth in pain but my fingers are trembling and slick with blood and the body of the arrow slips out of my grip and I almost fall forward, making her shift in my lap. Arg! I unwillingly groan. God. Jesus. That was not good. You have learned. Interior damage tolerance LV.1. Great. Wonderful. I bet that'll be extremely useful this next time that I pull it out. Clean pull my ass. I grab hold of the arrow again. Touching it sends little electrical jolts of pain through my shoulder and chest, but it doesn't matter anymore. I clench my fist around the arrow. 2 clean pulls. That isn't too much to ask for, is it? Of course not. But that's all I need, so here we go. I don't even pull it a fourth of the way out before the arrowhead hooks onto what I think is my collarbone, and in the absolute mind-blotting, toe-curling pain of this, the thin body of the arrow in my hand snaps in two. My breathing feels ragged. It didn't hit my lung, but it's damn close. I really don't have any choice but to push it through, do I? Yeah. I don't. The body of the arrow snapped off so close to my body that I can barely even reach it anymore. But I need to push it the rest of the way in. Otherwise, I lose mobility in my entire left arm. I don't know if this stage has any monsters or enemies, but if it does, I'll need my shield arm. I grit my teeth again. I just need to push it through. It'll have to go above the shoulder blade. That's the only way. I clench my left fist and squeeze my eyes shut. And then, placing my right hand on the splintered end of the arrow, I push. You have learned. Interior damage tolerance LV.2. The arrow carves mercilessly through my flesh, severing tendons and gnashing through everything I have, scraping along my shoulder blade as it does, making the sound of metal against bone reverberate through my sore skull. Push, push, push. Once it finally no longer presses against my shoulder blade, the remaining half of the arrow has gone so far inside my shoulder that I have to push my fingers deep inside my own shoulder to properly push it out, making blood squeeze out of the hole and run down my tattered clothes. But after several minutes of this, I finally feel the arrowhead start to push against the hard and rubbery skin of my back. After a few unsuccessful attempts at pushing it through, I reach back my left hand and hold down the skin while pushing with my right, which finally lets the arrow burst back out into the free air. I pull my right hand back out of my shoulder and pull the arrow the rest of the way with my left, tossing it aside once it's no longer stuck to me. The whole arrow is red, and so are both of my hands and almost half of my hoodie. You have learned. Interior damage tolerance LV.3. You have learned. Bleeding tolerance LV.6. You have learned. Lesser auto-regeneration LV.4. I feel dizzy, but with this, I can finally rest a bit more properly. It might be optimistic thinking, but if this dark forest was filled with any beasts or monsters, they would have sniffed me out already. Unconsciously, I press her closer to me. I close my eyes. It wouldn't be right to say that I slept. I was in too much pain for that. If it was meditation, then it was an incredibly deep one. You have learned. Meditation LV.2. You have learned. Hypnagogia LV.1. When I come back to, my injuries are mostly healed. I still feel groggy and my brain feels fuzzy and weird, but I'm not in any immediate pain. All of my resistances have leveled up pretty well, but I don't feel invincible in the least. One hit to the head and I'm dead. How long has it even been since I entered this stage? Top status, community. 19 hours and 2 seconds. Day 2. The second attempt will begin in 29:04:59:58. 19 hours. 19 hours just to recover from a few arrow wounds. Then again, if this was the real world, I'd probably be dead. Dead and buried. I wonder how long it would have taken someone to find my corpse. If it was one of my coworkers, they'd probably loot me and leave me to the masses to find. Or something. I never did get too close to them. But enough about that. End of chapter. Chapter 7. F1 Arrows. It doesn't seem like I'm going to be attacked by anything anytime soon, so if I wanted to, I could probably hang around here until that timer went down completely. The issue is that I don't know what happens when the second attempt rolls around. I was only able to survive like this because everyone was in the way of the arrows, so I was only hit in my arms and legs and stuff. If I had to redo this stage, I'd probably die instantly. Now that I think about it, the arrows really do only come from one direction, don't they? Let's see. If the hill is in the hypothetical north, then the arrows are coming from the hypothetical west. From what I can see, the arrows aren't being shot by anyone, but rather, they're just guided by the wind. Since the wind is really strong, it easily weaves between the trees, though a lot of arrows still hit the trees, getting stuck on their hypothetical west side. If I get hit by these arrows head-on with no shelter or shield, I'm dead. I hold her closer. Her shield had just burst. It made no difference in the least. From what I can see, the only things that can protect me are the trees and… I stare into her dead empty eyes. Gulp. But it's not as though I have any choice. If she were still alive, if she could still speak then she would have told me to keep going. For their sakes. No matter the cost. I glance to my right. Among a path weaving between the trees lie 2 urchin bodies and 3 gleaming weapons. A spear, an axe, and my sword. I'll need that sword. This floor is one thing, but if I don't have it for the next floor, I'll probably be dead. I really have no choice in all of this. What's my best option for pulling my sword closer? I turn my eyes to her. She could work, right? I mean, she's already riddled with arrows, so what's a few more? Gulping, I straighten out where I sit. Lifting her up, I take a hold of her left foot and hold her chest up. She's pretty light. And with that as my tool, I toss her out towards the sword. Her body flops onto the floor in a weird, almost comedic position. About half a dozen arrows pierce her, 3 of them hitting her skull in such a way that it bursts open in a spray of goop. I pull her back in, and throw her again. This time she gets a bit closer, but the gap is almost a full meter longer than she is. I pull her back in. Yeah, I'll need to go out there. I frown at her. Sorry in advance. Propping her up in front of me like a shield, I stand up and inch out into the dastardly wind. Thump, thump, thump. A few pierce all the way through her abdomen and graze mine, a few hit my legs, but I can still keep on moving. Once I reach my sword, I quickly grab it and will it into my inventory. But then I spy the spear and the axe. It would be a waste to leave them to rot, right? Yeah. Shuffling along, I take a few more steps, getting closer and closer, until I finally reach the 2 prime weapons. A single touch sends them into my inventory, and I feel a surge of victory and hope that's instantly dashed as an arrow flies by and completely severs my hamstring, sending me flying down to the ground with her on top of me. Pain spasms through me and I bite down on my lips so hard I taste blood. Not good. Not good. Not good. Damn it. I can't die here. Was it so bad to just want a few more weapons? Gritting my teeth, I try to drag myself across the ground, but an arrow stabs into my hand, nailing it to the ground, and I give a hiss of pain. I can't let it stop me though, so without any conscious input, I lift my hand high, pulling it off the arrow. You have learned. Bleeding tolerance LV. 7. Great. Wonderful. Fantastic. I'm leaving a snail trail of blood, but I don't have time to think about it. The tree is so close. I can almost taste it. Smell the bark. Touch it. My vision is darkening. But I need to keep awake. So I pull myself. Step by step. Inch by inch. You have learned. Unconsciousness tolerance LV.4. You have learned. Poison tolerance LV.5. And then, finally, shade. My head enters the shade of the tree, and then my upper body, and then my abdomen, but I couldn't get my legs in before I felt my consciousness finally slip fully. I'm still awake, but I feel asleep. I'm half dead, but I feel alive. You have learned. Hypnagogia LV.2. You have learned. Poison tolerance LV.6. I don't know how many hours pass in this wakeful yet asleep state, but when I do, my vision is filled with status messages. You have learned. Piercing tolerance LV.7. You have learned. Poison tolerance LV.10. You have learned. Poison resistance LV.1. You have learned. Unconsciousness tolerance LV.7. You have learned. Bleeding tolerance LV.10. You have learned. Bleeding resistance LV.1. You have learned. Lesser autoregeneration LV.6. I stare at them for a second. Then, once I've read them all, I pull myself fully into the shade of the tree. There, I pull out the dozen or so arrows stuck in my legs. It's like pulling out splinters. I can't even feel it anymore. All I feel is the dull sensation of pressure and something giving way. You have learned. Cold tolerance LV.2. When did I get that? Must have been the cold, I guess. God knows I could certainly do without it. On that note, it seems like my bleeding and poison tolerances both evolved into proper resistances, which is nice, I suppose. Poison resistance, LV.1. Evolved version of poison tolerance. Grants protection against poisons and venoms. Bleeding resistance, LV.1. Evolved version of bleeding tolerance. Stifles bleeding and counteracts attacks that cause the bleeding status effect. Right, that's about what I expected. Neither of them reached more than level 1, so it's fair to assume that it's harder to increase the level of a resistance skill than a mere tolerance skill. With these two mildly competent-looking skills, I think I may actually have a chance of beating this floor. I have my weapons, I have her for protection. It's possible. Looking off into the distance, I catch sight of the unmoving, unblinking eclipse and the hill just below it. By the looks of it, it'll take me several days to actually get there, and that's without accounting for the pain of dodging the streams of arrows. At least, that would be if I walk straight towards it. But I don't think that that's my most suitable strategy here. The arrows are coming from the hypothetical west, and the hill is in the hypothetical north. If I head straight for it, the arrows will hit me any time I'm not in the shade of a tree. Say what you will about her effectiveness as a shield, but I have a feeling that in a few days, she'll start to lose her arrow-riddled limbs one by one. Hopping from tree to tree without a shield would be suicide. However, if I had the arrows downwind or upwind, in other words coming from the hill, then when I move towards the hill, I can line up the trees in such a way that the arrows won't hit me even as I jump from tree to tree. I won't need her protection anymore. To do this, I'll need to walk in a roundabout manner. But it is doable. Top status, community. 3 hours 21 minutes and 20 seconds. Day 3. The second attempt will begin in 28:21:39:40. 28 days. Yeah, I've got time. I just need to get there. And so, I set out to conquer the first floor. Mentally, I made a map of the area. Trees all around, hill in the middle, and arrows from the hypothetical west. All I had to do was to position the hill in such a way that it was in the hypothetical west so that the arrows are coming from the direction I'm walking towards. That way, once I got close enough, it should also serve as shelter from the arrows. It was a simple enough plan, and for the first few days, it worked pretty well. I went from tree to tree, using her as a shield. After a day or two her limbs started falling off, but getting hit in an arm or a leg or a shoulder was no longer dangerous for me. As long as I kept my internal organs and head safe, I'd be alright. You have learned. Battle Focus LV.1. You have learned. Enhanced Vision LV.1. At that point, I also learned a pair of immensely useful skills. Enhanced Vision was passive, but once it hit level 3, I was able to actually see the path that the arrows would take before they hit. Battle Focus was an active skill that drained my mental stamina to use, but with it, the world seemed to slow down. Together, they allowed me to dodge arrows. This was immensely useful once her head was shot clean off. But after a few days, I found myself in a bit of a pickle. The direction the arrows were coming in did not change. It was always from the hypothetical west, with the hill always in the hypothetical north. I had kind of hoped that I would eventually be able to use the eclipse as a guide since it should move as I do, but it doesn't. It hangs over the hill, no matter from which direction I look at it. My strategy had been to walk towards the hypothetical east, which in my mind would have been the quickest to get me in the shadow of the hill, but after over a week of the hill not changing position and the arrows always coming from the hypothetical west, I realized my error. The arrows aren't coming from the west, or the east, or even the north or south. They're swirling around the hill in a giant storm. No matter what way I go, the arrows will always come from the left when looking at the hill, because they're moving counterclockwise around it. By the time I realized this, I had already trekked for 9 days and learned half a dozen new tolerance skills. You have learned starvation tolerance LV.1. You have learned dehydration tolerance LV.1. You have learned exhaustion tolerance LV.1. You have learned hypothermia tolerance LV.1. You have learned paralysis tolerance LV.1. You have learned wind tolerance LV.1. Not to even mention the skills related to my skin getting tougher, or stamina increasing, or anything like that. Even though it hardly felt as though they did anything in the moment, once they increased enough, it let me continue my trek of hell for days on end without stopping. But once I realized that my strategy was built on a faulty premise, there was only one thing I could do: sit down and redo my plan. End of chapter. Chapter 8. F1, no shield needed. And that's why I'm sitting here, in the shade of an especially large tree, using my meditation LV.9 skill. Now that it's gotten pretty high, I can easily get into that place that took me hours before. The perfect darkness. It makes the pain feel more dull, and brings me away from the horror and darkness outside. A canto appears to you. The only trouble is every time I reach this state, this thing pops up. And no, I checked, and it's still the same thing. Basically, it's useless. That aside, I think I know what my best strategy is, now that I understand how this works. Gently, I place a hand on her. I can't really remember her name anymore, and all I've got left is her upper torso. Her pelvis fell off a while back, but by holding her in my left hand and my sword in my right and keeping battle focus active, I can dodge, parry and block arrows almost perfectly now. That's the only reason why I think my new strategy will work. I will need to slowly walk in a gradually smaller spiral around the hill, several times over, until I finally get close enough to hopefully reach the eye of the storm. To boot, I'll need to do this clockwise. The arrows move counterclockwise, but as I've discovered, it's a whole lot easier to block arrows if they're coming from the front. For the past few days, I've basically been walking backwards. Sure, she's pretty battered by now, but I think she can last. It's all just a matter of will. You have learned meditation LV.10. You have learned regeneration meditation LV.1. Oh ho? The meditation skill can evolve? It doesn't sound too bad either. Regeneration meditation LV.1. Evolved version of meditation. Recovery skills are enhanced as long as the skill is active. Greater mental clarity is achieved. Is this what I think it is? The so adored battle meditation that heals your wounds quicker? Well, well, well. Looks like I may actually have more than a child's innocence's chance in rainforest at surviving this. And for once, the effects of the skill actually feel somewhat drastic, with the half a dozen or so holes in my abdomen and legs and arms quickly healing. Well, maybe not quickly, but I can feel that it will only take around half an hour as opposed to several hours. Is this how my legend as the unkillable player begins? But maybe not under my current username. If I die, Do I get to choose a new username in the afterlife? Or do I need to pay cash for a name change? On that note, how's the community doing so far? Top status, community. 21 hours 21 minutes and 21 seconds. Day 12. The second attempt will begin in 19:02:39:39. I've been in here for almost 2 weeks, huh? Somehow, it feels like it's been both more and less. Anyhow, I poke the community tab. Status, community, top. Asia server. Easy lobby, 100 of 833. Normal lobby, 52 of 187. Hard lobby, 3 of 27. Hell lobby, 0 of 1. A lot of people have started to die now, huh? Around 13 in the hard, almost 100 in the normal, and a couple in the easy. I guess the only way to know how this happened is once the lobbies open once I clear this stage. There's a fair chance that some of the others have already beaten this floor, but I don't know if the next floor opens instantly or only with the next attempt. I really don't know. Either way, dying isn't reserved for the hell difficulty alone. Anyhow, my wounds feel pretty much healed, so it's about time that I get moving. There are 19 days until the next attempt, and I don't want to find out what happens if I haven't beaten this stage by then. I get to my feet. Picking her up, I slide my hand into a hole I made around her spine to make for a sort of grip. She really does look like an urchin now, but better her than me. And so, I set out again. I had only hypothesized it, but my theory was proven true. As I slowly, inch by inch made my way closer to the hill by circling around it, the winds did indeed get stronger. After some time, I was unable to physically move forward because of how strong the winds were. But once my wind tolerance, a skill I had assumed useless, reached level 10 and evolved into wind resistance, I was actually able to continue. Somehow, it made me more unshakable as I made my way forward. My stats were the same as when I began, but with the skills I had accrued, I was able to defend myself against the winds with some amount of skill. And it was going just fine, until one day she poofed. I don't know what did it or how or why, but exactly 2 weeks after she had died, her torso just up and poofed. I was so surprised by it that I got a couple of arrows in my abdomen, but by this point the arrows moved so fast that they just burst straight through you rather than get stuck. In shock, I threw myself into the shade of a tree, deliriously staring at where she disappeared. And there, like a mob in a game, laid a few item drops. 2 pieces of jerky and a bottle of water. I blinked at it like an insane person. I no longer had a shield. But deep inside, a little question slyly chiseled its way into my brain. Do I really need a shield? After an hour of recovery meditation, the holes from the arrows were gone. My skills were high enough to dodge and parry the arrows as needed. Did I really actually need a shield? And really, if the arrows hit the shield and not me, then I couldn't get skill experience from them. A grin rose to my lips. That's right. The more you get hurt, the stronger you become. Boldly, like a lion facing an armed hunter, I went out into the fray. Jumping, leaping, dodging, I held one sword in each hand, deftly parrying the arrows before they even got close to my supple flesh. And even when I get hit, thanks to my many skills, I'm able to keep going regardless. I think by now, I'm mainly fueled by adrenaline and not much else. Any time I settle down without meditating, the pain seeps in and I have a strange, illogical need to get hurt again to get another fix, to keep the pain at bay. I have no idea how my brain is producing this much adrenaline, but I am certainly not complaining. And so, slowly, I make my way closer to the hill, inch by inch, foot by foot. I am now so close that the hill looms over me. But unlike my initial hypothesis so long ago, getting closer to the hill does not grant me any form of rest. The arrows now move so fast that even with all of my skills, I can't see them. I just can't. The wind is also horrible and occasionally takes me off my feet despite my resistances. I've been in almost the exact same spot for 3 days now. My only movement has been to jump out from behind the tree, get shot with arrows, and jump back and to pull them out one by one before meditating to heal it again. In and out, in and out, in and out. My lesser auto-regeneration evolved into auto-regeneration, LV.1, losing the lesser prefix. My regeneration meditation has reached level 5. By stabbing myself with an arrow and then comparing how fast it regenerates with or without the regeneration meditation, I can conclude that it currently grants a plus 50% healing rate, which is insane. I can also use it in conjunction with hypnagogia, LV.4, to enter a half-waking, half-sleeping state where I can get some sort of rest without actually going to sleep fully. The problem isn't this place. If I could, I would almost have liked to stay here for a few weeks until my battle focus and enhanced vision and the others were high enough to let me both see and dodge the arrows, but at the moment, the problem isn't with ability and growth so to speak, but rather with time. Top, status, community. 5 hours 10 minutes and 5 seconds. Day 27. The second attempt will begin in 3:19:50:55. In a little less than 4 days, the next attempt will begin. I need to beat this floor within that time. I have no choice. I just don't have enough time left to try to get strong enough to beat this properly. I need to brute force this. Looking to the sky, I can see how close the eclipse is, and the hill just below it. If I were to run straight at it, I could reach it within only a few hours, I think. The problem is that by the time I get there, I'll be as prickly as a porcupine. But I can survive that, right? Sure, I mean, she didn't survive it, and neither did those two, but I can. They didn't have any skills. They weren't quick enough to understand the situation. They couldn't take it. But I could. I can. I can do it, if I just push myself to the highest limits. Isn't that how your skills get better anyways? I just need to go for it. Any damage I take can be healed easily. Piercing resistance LV.2 is nothing to laugh at. Yeah. I can do it. I just need to set out. Silently, drawing myself up, I get to my feet. I just need to run straight for it. No pauses, no healing unless I'm really about to die. I set my eyes on the hill. My body tenses. A grin finds its way onto my lips. And off I go. End of chapter. Chapter 9. F1 The Hill. My body flies out of the shade of the tree, both swords raised high, successfully parrying 2 arrows. Another arrow pierces straight through my arm, but I can still swing it so it doesn't matter. Battle focus is active and my vision is good enough to notice a few of the arrows as the light of the eclipse glints off their heads. A leap, a twist, a buckle, and I'm in the shade of the next tree. Without pausing at all, I jump towards the next, catching an arrow to my knee but still continuing. This isn't enough to stop me. I won't let it be. From tree to tree like a shadow just as ghostly as the leafless trees themselves, accruing more and more arrows as I go like metals pinned to my limbs, I keep going. The intoxicating adrenaline dulls the pain, and I'm able to focus only on dodging and parrying. When an arrow heads for my head and face and I can't parry it, I sacrifice my limbs. They'll heal, but my head sure won't. After half an hour, my razor-sharp focus begins to wane. After so many near-death experiences, I'm starting to be able to tell just how close to death I am. I've lost a lot of blood, but that'll regenerate in time. The arrows are moving so fast now. I can't see them, much less parry. So after a moment of silent thought, I put the swords back in my inventory and pulled out the axe. It's ridiculously broad, so it actually works as a shield, large enough to hide both my head and upper chest. My lower abdomen isn't quite so lucky. It doesn't feel like I've got a head anymore. My body feels bereft of blood. I think most of it got stuck to my clothes. I want to take them off, but they're the only defense I've got left. I have no choice but to go on. Top status, community. 2 hours and 10 seconds. Day 28. The second attempt will begin in 2:22:59:50. And then, after Lord knows how many hours or days or years, the arrows let up. No more arrows hit my body. I haven't seen where I've been going ever since I started using the axe as a shield. Numb from head to toe, I fall flat on my face, my skull meeting rock and mud because I'm a fool to expect a pillow. For the past few hours I haven't been looking at the status messages I've been getting because, frankly speaking, they distract me. Looking at them in the middle of a battle is a death sentence. In 3 days the attempt ends. Slowly, groggily, I open my eyes and look up. Before me looms that hill overlooked by the black eye. I'm here. I cleared the floor. I think. I stare up at the hill. Tutorial stage. Held difficulty first floor. Boss stage. Clear condition. Reach the top of the hill and greet him. Boss stage? Hey, the floor description didn't say anything about some boss stage. This is horse crap. Have you even seen the top of that hill? I mean, seriously, aren't boss stages only supposed to appear after, like, 10 floors or something? And then a mid-boss at the halfway point? This is ridiculous. But then again, if all I have to do is get to the top of the hill, then it could be worse, right? Get to the top of the hill. Compared to dodging and or getting hit by a gazillion arrows, it's basically a piece of cake. Even though it's steep enough to be called a cliff or a small mountain rather than a hill, I bet I could get up there with several days to spare until the next attempt. And then I'll greet him and be done with this whole floor. Whoever he is. Looking down, I scan my current injuries. I've taken too many arrows to my legs and arms to count, but my abdomen and head are mostly clear. Nothing to my lungs either, so I should be alright. You have learned. Bleeding resistance LV.3. Great, very useful. Snark aside, once a tolerance evolves into a resistance, it actually becomes really useful. Who would have guessed? Back to reality. I've got 3 days left until the next attempt, so I should have enough time to heal up before I start. I want to get to it straight away and get back to the lobby to get back to my full health, but that will have to wait. So, even though it pains me, I take a seat and begin meditating. After an hour or so, I've healed enough holes and scrapes to be able to start pulling out the arrows. First my legs, 1 leg at a time, and then my arms. Once these have healed fully, which took about 2 hours, I can pull out the half a dozen stuck in my abdomen. Pulling them out reminds me of the fact that I haven't eaten in almost a month. You have learned. Starvation tolerance LV.10. You have learned. Starvation resistance LV.1. It's a funny thing, no matter how high a resistance gets, the actual pain from it doesn't go away. My body feels less weak and I can move better with the resistances, but the arrows and the poison and the starvation and the dehydration still make me lethargic with the pain. But it's better than dying, so whatever. I start pushing out the arrows stuck deep in my bowels. You have learned. Interior damage resistance LV.2. Fun. After digging around a fair bit and feeling the squishiness of my organs and pushing out the final few arrows, including one arrowhead that got snapped off, I pull my arm back out. If you're running around a lot, then if you get an arrow stuck in a certain part, the head may often stay stuck inside while the body itself snaps off, which is a huge bother. Normally speaking, you shouldn't even run with just a single arrow in your body, but I don't exactly have a choice here. With all of the arrows dislodged, I spend a few more hours fully healing the rest of the damage. Once my fingers feel alright again and my body is no longer anemic to the point of half-death, I know it's time. Top status, community. 5 hours 1 minute and 10 seconds. Day 29. The second attempt will begin in 1:19:58:50. All right. 2 days. I can do this. I heave myself onto my feet and survey the hill. Since I've circled around it a dozen times now, I know very well that all sides are equally jagged and horrible. Might as well just head for it, you know. As for preparations, I checked my inventory. Top, status, community. Inventory. Yeah, all I have is what she dropped, alongside a spear and a shield and sword. 2 bits of jerky and a bottle of water. I've eaten all of the rest and drank all of the water. Going without food for a few weeks is alright, but you can really feel the loss of water. I'm lucky my dehydration tolerance evolved after only a week or so, or I might have really died. I think it would be best to prepare myself for the worst, so I pull out my wooden shield and put the axe back in my inventory. Although I've been carrying it and swinging my sword around so much, none of my base stats have increased, not even my stamina despite getting exhaustion resistance, LV.2. It seems that I really can only get stronger by increasing my level, which I assume comes from beating monsters. Assuming there are any monsters in this god-abandoned hell of a tutorial. First stage, my ass. Closing down the window, I clutch the shield in my left hand and my sword in my right. It's time. Looking up towards the eclipse, I boldly make my entrance. The hill is angled in such a way that it has a slow slope that eventually ends in a sharp, rocky ascent, so for now, I'm just stepping forward, keeping my eyes and ears at the ready. Battle focused out of my mind and all that. And for almost an hour, it goes fine. And then, the boss monster appeared. Leopard LV8 boss. Ha 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 ha. It's literally just a leopard. Big and spotted and with legs as long as spears. That last part was an exaggeration, but this is absolutely a leopard. Long, thick tail. Almost round ears. It's not exactly as big as I imagined, but it is absolutely larger than me. Not in terms of pure height or anything, but it is clearly way heavier than me. Now that I think of it, it might have longer legs than I do. But that means nothing. It's just a leopard. Sure, it's fast, but I'm not planning or running. Its speed does not grant it immense agility. If I just keep my calm, I can handle it. Growler. Lion, LV7 boss. Leaping 5 feet into the air, I simultaneously whirl around just in time to see the massive maw of the maned lion that suddenly appeared behind me close. Well, hello there, I'm king of the jungle. What are you doing on this horrible hill? It moves closer to me, bold as can be. Gulp. I take a step back, but my mind reacts for me and I quickly angle my body to the side and leap back, allowing me to turn my front towards both of the large cats. Slowly I creep back, pulling my sword and shield closer to me. Don't come any closer. I am trained in the arts of jiu-jitsu. I can toss you both clear off this hill without the slightest sweat. Just you believe it. Grrrr. I freeze in my step. Silently, I give a prayer to any god that will listen before glancing over my shoulder. Yup. That's a wolf. End of chapter. Chapter 10. F1 Boss Stage 3 Beasts. Wolf, LV7 Boss. My internal mental processes speed up into a blur. According to the clear conditions, I don't have to defeat these creatures. I just need to get to the top of the hill. If I run with all my might and get to the jagged rocks, they will no longer be able to pursue me. It wouldn't be any trouble. None at all. But what if the next floor has a massive load of enemies? What if all of the enemies are level 20 while I'm still level 0? I need to survive, but if it just means dying a bit later, then there's no point. I need to beat them. I need to kill them with my own 2 hands. But who says I need to do it in a fair fight? The god of cowardice shows interest in you. The world briefly pauses and holds its breath. The 3 boss monsters don't move. I can't hear the weeping of the wind and the whistling of its arrow brethren. Huh! and then the world starts moving again and my feet whirl beneath my feet faster than I have time to think, and acting as a starting shot, the three beasts throw themselves to me, barking and growling and roaring, but since we're all running downhill they can't properly run, demonstrated as the wolf briefly tries to speed up to catch me and ends up falling ass over tea kettle and tumbling down the side of the hill. Taking that opportunity, I slash my sword at it, forgetting that it's literally blunt. Instead of doing any damage whatsoever to the exposed abdomen of what I now see as a she-wolf, it simply bounces off, less than ineffective. Damn it! In my attempt, I briefly stalled, an opening that the leopard happily takes advantage of by leaping at me and catching hold of my exposed left arm. I don't have time to try to counteract, so all I can do is stab my sword into its mouth, chipping off one of its front fangs and making it kneel in pain, the surprise of the attempt making it lose its grip on me. By this point the she-wolf has gotten back to its feet, but I'm already gone, back to running like high hell. My breath is starting to grate in my throat, but I can't stop. Just a bit further down, I can see the whistling woods grow nearer and nearer, and some form of hope latches onto me just as I hear a loud growl. Purely by instinct, I throw myself into a roll to the right, just in time to watch the lion fly by, paws and claws raised and ready but missing me by only a hair. My breath hitches as I tumble to the ground, rolling once and then twice before somehow leaping back to my feet. The forest is close now and the whistling arrows that I had almost forgotten the sound of once again come to my ears. Fleeting hope comes to my chest and like a dehydrated desert walker spotting an oasis, I bound for the trees, leaping with near desperation into the way of the storm of arrows, my shield raised to cover my head and chest and my sword in the same position. About a dozen arrows stab into me as I fly across a clear spot before rolling into the shade of a tree, my arms and legs and abdomen and chest all pierced with innumerable arrows, and just as I force myself to a stop, I'm given the delicious visage of the pursuing beasts, just a hair behind, also leaping into the fray of arrows. Watching their bodies get pierced by dozens if not hundreds of arrows before falling over reminds me of them, but seeing the horrible beasts die is too delicious to avert my eyes from. Wolf, LV, 7 boss, defeated. Lion, LV, 7 boss, defeated. Level up. You have reached level 4. Agility has increased by 4. Bleeding resistance has increased by 2. Strength has increased by 3. Stamina has increased by 5. Magic power has increased by 2. Hypnagogia has increased by 1. Enhanced vision has increased by 2. Battle focus has increased by 1. Field focus has increased by 2. Regeneration meditation has increased by 1. Poison resistance has increased by 1. Oh good Lord in heaven. It's beautiful. I feel like crying. It's so not cool to cry, but it really does make me feel like crying. A bunch of hard-to-raise skills just suddenly got a huge boost. And my normal stats have also gone way up. It really is like a light from heaven. Top, status, community. Prissy Kitty Princess. Human level 4. Strength 7. Agility 13. Stamina 14. Magic power 15. I don't like looking at my status because it reminds me of what username I have, but for once, I'm glad to see it. My only problem is that, well, why did I only get messages for the she-wolf and the lion? Looking to my left, the answer to that is obvious. There, on the other side of the hail of arrows, stands the leopard. It's got an arrow stuck in its paw, but that's it. I guess it was a little bit more clever than its two co-workers. No matter. I've only got a dozen or so arrows stuck in me, so I'm basically fit as a fiddle. Yup, I could absolutely do a tap dancing routine right now. Top, status, community. 20 hours 32 minutes and 11 seconds. Day 29. The second attempt will begin in 1:03:28:49. Alright. How do I solve this? Since I can starve for an unknown amount of months, my best bet would be to make this into a battle of attrition. If I just stay here, the leopard should eventually starve or get thirsty to the point where it will have no choice but to brave the arrows in order to get to me and my supple, red flesh. For once, I wish the poison in the arrows was stronger, because as is, the leopard won't die just from that single one alone. And since there's only a little more than 1 day left until the next attempt, I need to settle this now. Looking at the leopard, I can tell that it's too intelligent to be goaded into attacking. If I'm going to do this, I'll have to be the one to take the leap. But if I do it as is, I'll be too battered by the arrows to put up a proper fight. I need to heal up first. I hate this strategy, but there's no other choice. Since I'm at a lack for time, I choose to just bite the bullet and pull out all the arrows at once. My stamina and bleeding resistance should be high enough to cover it properly. As I pull them one by one, I dampen the pain by just counting them as I go. In the end, I pulled a total of 17 arrows out of my limbs, abdomen, and chest. It hurts like hell, and I think one of my lungs may have collapsed, but the other works just fine, so I should be okay. I'm 2 arrows short from death, so I should be okay. Even though I can hear the hissing breaths of the leopard, I let my eyes close and slip into meditation. With the clock in front of me, I count every second and every minute and every hour. I can't spend more than 9 hours at this or my schedule will suffer. I can't let that happen. Deep in the darkness of my mind, I focus on that and nothing else. You have learned. Oxygen deficiency tolerance LV.1. You have learned. Auto-regeneration LV.2. Most of the damage heals pretty standardly, and is well and good after only around 3 hours, but the lung is different. Being so complex, it takes much longer, and despite getting a tolerance skill for it, the oxygen deficiency still gets to me in the end, and after only a few hours, I enter hypnagogia. And by the time I awaken, top, status, community. 14 hours 50 minutes and 50 seconds. Day 30. The second attempt will begin in 0:09:10:10. I have only around 9 hours left? I feel sweat bead on my back, turning the dried blood in my clothes once more watery. I don't have any more time. I need to act and fast. On the other side of the arrows, I can see the leopard still there, pacing to and fro. After I take the leap, I'll need to get straight into combat. There will be no other choice. I can do it. I've gotten this far, right? Just a little bit more. That's all. Silently, I put my sword back into my inventory and bring out the axe. It will protect me. I stand up. The leopard meets my gaze, and for one long second, there is a perfect understanding between us. I know what it's thinking, and it knows what I'm thinking. There's no need for words. Grarorg! Roaring, I leap into the fray of arrows, holding up the axe so that it protects my head and chest, ignoring the adrenaline-dulled pain of a dozen arrows piercing my arms and legs, and the second I reach the arrowless eye of the storm that surrounds the hill, I throw the axe forward, onto the leopard in an attempt to distract it. But it's far too quick-witted, and it easily dodges the axe with a small sidestep, quickly throwing itself towards me in the opening I created. But in the small moment of the leopard dodging before leaping, I've already pulled 2 arrows from my legs and armed myself with them, and when the leopard leaps at me, jaws wide and claws on display, I waste no time stabbing the arrows towards the exposed face of the leopard, one in its open maw, the other in its eye. Despite the obvious pain, the leopard snakes its claws around me, hooking them into my flesh as its jaw first clamps down on the arrow and then into my shoulder. With this as a start, the leopard clings the rest of its body onto me, the claws of its feet stabbing deep into my bowels, but I can't afford to think about it. Pulling more arrows from my legs, I stab it into the supple skin of the leopard's bosom hide. 1, 2, 3, 4 arrows and counting. I don't need them to go far in, I just need them to poison the leopard enough to make it unable to continue for much longer. More and more arrows, But its jaws are powerful, and the harsh clamp of it is enough to render my bones to dust, crunching them loudly as it chews and tries to reach my larger arteries. But I'm not just letting this happen apathetically. Once I stab a second arrow into its other eye, blinding it fully, the leopard finally shrieks and leaps back, disoriented and pained. But I won't let it get away. Throwing myself at it, I grab 2 arrows from its bosom and stab it into its neck, and in some pure, feral need for vengeance, I begin to bite down into its neck, searching for veins, for blood, for anything that will let me kill it. Once the skin bursts, and the blood flows into my mouth and tongue, the month-long dehydration comes back in full force, and I lap at the warm liquid with sheer desperation. You have learned. Bite LV.1. You have learned. Bloodlust LV.1. The leopard mews and swats at my face with its massive paws, gouging deep gashes across my face and neck. Blood is rushing to my head and making me feel drowsy, but it doesn't matter. All that matters is killing this beast. When I no longer have any arrows in my body to stab it with, I start using the arrows in its own body to gouge deeper and deeper, and once I've got a hole big enough, I shove my own hand in there and start digging around, eventually hooking my hand around what I think is an intestine that I then pull out. You have learned. Rip LV.1. You have learned. Ter LV.1. And after a long and desperate fight, I finally feel the heavy breaths of the leopard die down. Leopard LV.8 boss defeated. Level up. You have reached level 6. Agility has increased by 2. Dehydration resistance has increased by 1. Starvation resistance has increased by 2. Strength has increased by 2. Stamina has increased by 2. Magic power has increased by 1. Bite has increased by 3. Bloodlust has increased by 2. Bleeding resistance has increased by 1. Basic swordsmanship has increased by 1. End of chapter. If you enjoy the story, please leave a like and comment to let me know you want more. Make sure to support the author by liking the official story page on Royal Road, link in the description.